Enjoy Your Symptom by Slavoj Žižek. Introduction to the new revised edition. From Desire to Drive and back. The present book was first published in 1992 as an attempt to introduce the doctrine of Jacques Lacan to the American public via Hollywood cinema. How are we to judge the receptivity of American academia to Lacan now, almost 10 years later? One of the stories that snobbish French Lacanians like to quote against translating jouissance's enjoyment, with of course an undertone of French arrogance and a patronizing stance towards the American scene, is that Lacan, on his first visit to the United States, watched in Baltimore a TV commercial with the motto, "Enjoy Coke," and dismayed at its vulgarity, emphatically claimed that his jouir, not disenjoy. Against this argument, one should claim that enjoying the unfortunate enjoy Coke precisely as the jouir, in its superego imbecility, what better example of Lacan's thesis that superego is an injunction to enjoy than enjoy Coke? Is there then a hope for the breakthrough of Lacanian theory in the United States? Whatever the vicissitudes and deformations of Lacan in cultural studies, one should focus on what happens with children in their early age, following the wise Jesuit motto, "Give me a child till he is 7, and afterward you can do with him whatever you want." So I am tempted to claim that there is hope for us Lacanians as long as American children are massively exposed to Shel Silverstein's two classic books, The Missing Piece and The Missing Piece Meets the Big O. One is almost embarrassed by the direct way these two books render in naked form the basic matrix of the Lacanian opposition. A subject in search of a missing piece that would fill in the gap and thus change it into a complete circle. Somewhat like a perfect spheric human being preceding sexual difference from Plato's Symposium. It was missing a piece, and it was not happy. So it set off in search of its missing piece, and as it rolled, it sang a song. "Oh, I'm looking for my missing piece. I'm looking for my missing piece. Hi-dee-ho. Here I go looking for my missing piece." So after a long journey, full of adventurous encounters, one day it finds a triangular missing piece that will fill its void. However, that piece tells him, "Wait a minute, I'm not your missing piece. I'm nobody's piece. I'm my own piece. And even if I was somebody's missing piece, I don't think I'd be yours." So it sadly rolls on, finds another piece that is too small, another that is too big, another's too sharp, another's too square, another that it doesn't hold tightly enough and thus loses, another that it holds too tightly and thus breaks. Finally, it encounters a triangular piece that seems to be just right and asks, Are you anybody else's missing piece?" The piece answers, "Not that I know of." "Well, maybe you want to be your own piece. I can be someone's, and still my own." So they get together and they fit perfectly, forming a perfect sphere, because it is now complete. It rolls faster and faster. But for that reason, it cannot smell a flower or talk to a worm. Could it still sing? It began to sing if frown, my nissen, cheese up away, and started to sing softly. Oh, I'm looking for my missing piece. I'm looking for my missing piece. It is the paradox of desire, of Robert Schumann's tragedy. His fate was the opposite of a standard lover caught in an unhappy love affair, and dreaming about love, so that his position was that of a lover united forever with his beloved, and dreaming about some new obstacle that would make the beloved distant. It is no wonder that the outcome was a psychotic breakdown. Things were far more beautiful than one imagined from breaking. Schumann would say to himself, was not the mere idea of a possible setback more agreeable than the certainty of familiar things? The trajectory of Freud's and Lacan's theory goes from desire to drive. It is no surprise, then, that the missing pieces, which narrates the myth of how the Lacanian lamella constitutes itself as desiring subject through lack, was followed 6 years later by the missing piece meets the big O, which tells the story, as it were, from the opposite end, not from the standpoint of the desiring subject looking for its missing piece, but from the standpoint of the missing piece itself. This piece is not the Freudian partial object satisfied to remain its own piece, like the first piece encountered by the it in the first book, but the piece that is sitting alone, waiting for someone to take it. Here, of course, problems emerge. Some who come along fit but cannot roll. Others can roll but do not fit. Some are too delicate. Some put the piece on a pedestal and leave it there. Some have too many pieces missing. Some have itself more attractive. But it doesn't help. It tries being flashy. The voice just frightens away the shy ones. At last, one comes along that fits just right, looking like the it from the first book. So as in the first book, they form a perfect sphere and start to roll happily. I'm looking for my missing piece, one that won't increase. Then one day, an it comes along that looks different, a perfect circle in itself, the piece, a good Lacanian partial object that asks the it, the obvious Gavoy question, what do you want of me? Nothing is the answer. What do you need from me? Asks the piece, putting its bets on the distinction between demand and nothing. Maybe I am your missing piece, asks the piece, to which the big O answers, but I am not missing the piece. There is no with me, says the big O, but perhaps you can roll by yourself. By myself? The missing piece cannot roll by itself. Have you ever tried? But I am not shaped for rolling. Corners wear off and shapes change, says the big O, and rolls away. Alone again, the missing piece lifts itself, flops over, and slowly learns to roll. Its edges begin to wear off, and soon it goes on carelessly, rolling instead clinging, like a parasite, to the big other, the two together forming a perfect example of the inner eight, the matrix of the self-perpetuating, repetitious circulation of the drive. Apart from minor corrections of typographical errors, the big difference between the first and this edition of the book is a new substantial final chapter, focusing on the phantasmatic support of the notion of reality, Since my standard book formula is for a length of 6 chapters, and since the book had in its first edition only 5 chapters, it is now, after the delay of 8 years, that Enjoy or Symptom effectively became my book.